Welcome back. Good Wednesday morning, everybody. Thanks so much for joining us this morning. I'm Maria Bartiromo, and it is Wednesday, August 13th. It is 7 a.m. on the button on the East Coast. We are on countdown mode right now. We are an hour away from an emergency call that President Trump is going to be having with European leaders and Ukrainian President Zelenskyy. This call coming ahead of his high-stakes summit with Vladimir Putin in Alaska on Friday.
I'm talking to the European leaders. I'll be talking to President Zelenskyy. I'm going to get everybody's ideas. I go into that thing fully loaded right up there. It's going to be a good meeting, and we'll go a step further. We'll get it done. I'd like to see a ceasefire very, very quickly. Very quick. I'd like to see it immediately, but I'd like to see it very quickly. And we're going to be dealing with the European leaders, and we're going to be dealing with President Zelenskyy, and hopefully we're going to have a great success.
The call is expected to take place in 1 hour as European members come up with their own plan to stop Putin. 26 members of the European Union say that they are supporting Ukraine's sovereignty in a new statement. Hungary's Prime Minister Viktor Orban did not sign that statement. He is the only one. Zelenskyy writes this on X: "I am grateful to the leaders of Europe for their clear support of our independence and territorial integrity. We all support President Trump's determination, and together we must shape positions that will not allow Russia to deceive the world once again." Joining me now is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker. Ambassador, great to have you this morning. Thanks so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
And we are now 1 hour away from the start of this phone call that President Trump is having with the European leaders. What are your expectations for this call?
Well, this is quite extraordinary, and President Trump obviously wants the killing to end. He knows that if we can get a ceasefire in place, that will save thousands, if not tens of thousands of lives in the long term. And a ceasefire just creates the conditions to then negotiate this lasting peace. And so I think there is a little bit of urgency in getting the ceasefire in place. But at the same time, the war's been going on for 3.5 years, and to expect that it's all just going to be concluded overnight, I think is unrealistic. But President Trump is seeing if Putin is serious. He's going to meet with him on Friday, and obviously take his temperature and see if he's really interested in getting a deal done.
But, I mean, look, over the weekend, the Wall Street Journal wrote about how European leaders have their own ideas in terms of a plan to present to Putin. You know, Putin would like to take more territory. So is this the big sticking point now? How does this war end without Putin gaining more territory?
Obviously, everyone has opinions, but the person that has brought Putin to the table is President Trump, the person who is going to negotiate and mediate this dispute and this war is President Trump. And he is spending capital and trying to see if he can get both sides to come to an agreement. But I think he is a realist in this. I think he is, continuing to create the leverage, whether it's through the secondary sanctions, whether it's through the weapons sales that we're doing from the United States to our NATO allies. All of those are creating the circumstances that nobody except President Trump would have created. And so I think we should all, be patient. Europeans and the Ukrainians have a voice in this, and the Ukrainians are going to have to agree to any deal that happens.
Yeah, I mean, it's true. President Trump has allowed this call to take place in the face of what he has done here, getting Vladimir Putin to the table. But should we trust him? I mean, what is Putin going to tell Trump on Friday? What do you think?
Well, I don't think we should trust Vladimir Putin. I think we're going to have to, just like Reagan reminded us, we're going to have to trust but verify. And any agreement that is, put in writing and signed by the parties is going to have to be enforced. And, that's where Europe has a strong position in this. They're the ones that have a coalition of the willing that is going to be the security force that ultimately will be on the ground, is the plan right now, to have those soldiers in Ukraine, making sure that the fighting continues to end. But first we need a ceasefire, and you can't negotiate a peace deal if you're constantly under assault, if rockets and missiles and drones are going after your capital city. And so, we need a ceasefire first, and President Trump understands that, and I think that's what he's going to see when he talks to Vladimir Putin on Friday. Does Putin want a ceasefire?
Meanwhile, Iran is threatening to block the development of a new transit approved in the Trump-brokered peace deal between Armenia and Azerbaijan. The heads of those countries were in the White House just last week, and the corridor that we're talking about runs close to Iran's northern border. It would operate under Armenian law, though the U.S. would have development rights to the route. The potential name, the Trump Route for International Peace and Prosperity. Ambassador, your reaction to this?
Well, Iran continues to be a chaos merchant, even though their proxies have been decimated, whether it's Hezbollah or Hamas or even the Houthis in Yemen. This is just another place where they're trying to meddle. You know, this historic peace deal that we saw last week, President Trump, and the leaders admitted this, President Trump is the one that brought it to a close and got the deal signed. Obviously, the security of that corridor is going to be important, and the United States of America is going to continue to work with Azerbaijan and Armenia to guarantee that this peace deal holds.
It's incredible what President Trump has been able to achieve in these first 6 months. Ambassador, what do you want to say about European leadership looking at America right now? I mean, President Trump has been successful in getting them all to focus on their own defense, lifting the amount of money that they're dedicating to defense as far as up to 5% of their GDP.
Yeah, it was pretty sad what's been happening to the European defense and security over the last decades. You know, they took a peace dividend and ran with it, and have really found themselves in a difficult situation. But through countries like Germany, France to some extent, United Kingdom, and others are really stepping up. And then remember that Poland and the folks in the Baltics are really spending 5% already, and if they're not there this year, they'll be there next year. And so, Europe is waking up. The United States can't be there like we have been in the past. The American taxpayer has bore the burden of European security for too long, Maria, and President Trump has reset that and has put it on a path where Europe's going to spend a lot more on its own defense. It's going to allow the United States to rotate out of Europe and address other security needs. But at the same time, we're not abandoning Europe. We'll still be there as a good partner and ally. But Europe can no longer cruise on the taxpayers of the United States of America for their security and defense.
Meanwhile, Israel bombarding Gaza City overnight, Ambassador, tanks and airstrikes there in Gaza as Prime Minister Netanyahu is pushing forward with his plan to take over Gaza, wipe out Hamas. A top Hamas leader arrived in Egypt's capital for talks to potentially revive a U.S.-backed ceasefire proposal. What do you expect? And then there's Al Jazeera reporting, and we don't know if we can believe this, but they report that 5 of its journalists were killed in an Israeli airstrike, though Israel says one of those people was in charge of a Hamas cell. Ambassador.
Yeah, obviously Hamas could end this war today if they wanted to by laying down their arms and asking for peace, but they continue to fight, and so Iran is going to Israel is going to have to root them out, every single one of them, as they continue to fight. And so it's going to be a difficult slog through Gaza to get Hamas out of there. But again, this could end tomorrow or today if Hamas wanted to end it. And so, we need to continue to put pressure on both sides, but especially Hamas, to stop the fighting, to stop the suffering, to rebuild and make Gaza much better than it ever has been in the past. And that's President Trump's view for that.
All right, Ambassador, great to have you this morning. Thank you so much. We'll be waiting for any news that comes out of this call, which we expect to begin at 8 a.m. Eastern between President Trump and the leadership of Europe and Ukraine's Zelenskyy, ahead of that high-stakes meeting on Friday with Putin. Thank you, Ambassador. Good to see you.